Hi, good morning. Hope all of you are fine. Now, in the last class, in the notes that I have given, we have discussed examples of Hilbert space, Cn, Ln are Hilbert spaces, then properties of Hilbert inner product space. First property, inner product is a continuous function, then parallelogram law, then Pythagorean law. Today we are going to prove one of the corollary of Pythagorean theorem. Before going to the corollary, I would like to introduce you another example of an inner product. We know that CPAB, the space of all continuous function, equipped with the P norm. Okay. Now, in the last section, we denote the completion of CPAB as LPAB. Okay. Now here we are discussing about C2AB and L2AB. Okay. Now C2AB equipped with the norm. Suppose some f belongs to C2AB, and what about 2 norm? F2 is equal to integral a to b mod f of t whole square whole raised to 1 by 2, and this must be less than infinity. Okay, this is space of all functions satisfying this condition, and norm of 2 norm is defined like this. Okay, now the completion of this space, completion of CPAB is LPAB. So completion of C2AB is L2AB. Okay. Now this completed space is an inner product space. Okay, we are using one theorem. Before that, what about the norm defined on L2AB? We have norm. We have defined P of x as some P of f. You can P of f as is in terms of inner product. Okay, P of f as inner product of ff. Okay, also, and this is a whole raised to 1 by 2, and this is equal to norm of f. Now in CPAB, inner product is defined as inner product of f comma g is equal to integral a to b f of t into g of t conjugate dt. We have proved this is a inner product. Okay, so now what about norm of f? Norm of f is equal to integral a to b f of t, norm of f equal to inner product of ff whole raised to 1 by 2. Inner product of ff means f of t conjugate whole dt whole raised to 1 by 2, and this is equal to inner product of a to b mod f of t whole square dt whole raised to 1 by 2. Okay, now there is another result. If J is an inner product, the proof of this theorem is available in internet. If J is an inner product space and S is a completion of J, then the inner product on J can be extended to inner product on S. Now, but S is a complete space. Okay, and there is an inner product, so a complete inner product space is called a Hilbert space. Okay, so in this case here L2AB, we can extend the inner product on C2AB to L2AB. Okay, and L2AB is complete. This implies L2AB is a Hilbert space. Okay, now what about elements of L2AB? The C2AB is a normed space. L2AB is a completion. How we defined completion? For a set E, we denote E cap as the completion of E. Here this is actually C2AB cap. Okay. Now what about E cap? You just recall that E cap. What about that? That is a coset. Now what is that coset? E, the collection of all Cauchy sequences over n. N means here we are defining a function p of x equal to limit norm of xi and n is the space of all sequences with p of x equal to 0. I think we have defined x bar. Okay, so the coset, and this coset is actually our E cap. Okay, so elements of L2AB are actually cosets. Okay, now here each coset, for some element here we can define p of x or p of x bar. P of equivalence class of x is same as p of x. I am not going to that we have already discussed. Okay, so the elements of L2AB are actually cosets, and this is a Hilbert space. Okay, now the elements of L2AB are functions. So if some x belongs to L2AB, L2x is actually a function of some t. Okay, you can replace f by x. Okay, now xt. Now what about inner product norm of x? Actually 2 norm of x, and this is equal to integral a to b mod x of t whole square dt. This is actually Lebesgue integral. Okay, so when we define norm as a Lebesgue integral here. Okay, similarly in some, for any function x comma y, we define inner product as integral a to b x of t y of t conjugate dt. This is also a Lebesgue integral. Okay, measurable, Lebesgue integral on measurable function that you have already studied. Okay, now there may be a question, what about in general LPAB? Is LPAB is a Hilbert space? You think about that. We will discuss about this later. Okay. Now we are going to the corollary. The corollary says that if EI is a pairwise orthogonal set, normalized set, then sigma I is equal to 1 to n alpha I EI, norm of this set, is equal to sigma I is equal to 1 to n mod alpha I whole square. Okay, whole raised to 1 by 2. This is our corollary, and here alpha I are pairwise orthogonal. That means alpha, not alpha I, EIs are pairwise orthogonal and normalized. Now what do you mean by normalized? Normalized means norm of EI is equal to 1. Okay, that means inner product of EI whole raised to 1 by 2 is equal to 1. Okay, now pairwise orthogonal. What is the meaning of pairwise orthogonal? That means each EI comma EJ, inner product of this is equal to 0. Okay, if I not equal to j. Okay, so we have inner product of, okay, inner product of, we have inner product of EI, EJ is equal to 0 if I not equal to j, and 1 if I equal to j. And this is our delta function, delta ij. There is no need to worry about this. Sometimes there may be notation like EI, EJ equal to delta ij. This means EIs are pairwise, orthogonal and normalized. Okay. Now we have to prove this. Okay. Inner product, we have norm of alpha I EI. Suppose I am taking alpha 1 E1. Alpha 1 E1 is equal to inner product. I am taking the square. Okay. Inner product of alpha 1 E1 comma alpha 1 E1. Okay. And this is equal to, actually this is alpha 1 E1 alpha 1 E1, and this is equal to alpha 1 conjugate inner product of E1 E1, and this is equal to mod alpha 1 square inner product E1 E1, but inner product of E1 E1 is 1. Therefore, this is equal to mod alpha 1 square. Therefore, norm of alpha 1 E1 square is equal to mod alpha 1 square. Okay. Similarly, you can write in general norm of alpha I EI whole square is equal to mod alpha I. Okay. Now, here we are applying Pythagorean theorem. Before that, for applying Pythagorean theorem, we have to know whether alpha I EI is orthogonal to alpha j ej. Okay. So, consider alpha I EI, alpha j ej. And this is equal to this, you can write as alpha I EI, EJ. Alpha j EJ. And this you can write as alpha j conjugate actually. Okay. EI EJ. Suppose I not equal to j. If I not equal to j, then inner product of EI EJ is equal to 0. Okay. So this is actually equal to 0 if I not equal to j. And if I equal to j, that's equal to mod alpha I whole square. Therefore, this case, this condition holds. That is, if EI and EJ are orthogonal, then alpha EI is orthogonal to alpha EI is orthogonal to alpha j EJ. Now what about Pythagorean theorem? We have, if x is orthogonal to y, then norm of x plus y whole square is equal to norm of x whole square plus norm of y whole square. This is our Pythagorean theorem. Okay, here we apply Pythagorean theorem to this sum. Okay, now whatever each term is orthogonal. Okay, therefore this sum, norm of alpha 1 E1 plus alpha 2 E2 plus etc. plus alpha n En whole square is equal to norm of alpha 1 E1 square plus norm of alpha 2 E2 square plus etc. plus norm of alpha n En whole square. And that's equal to norm of alpha 1 square is mod alpha 1 square plus mod alpha 2 square etc. plus mod alpha n square. And that's equal to sigma I is equal to 1 to n mod alpha I square. And this is actually sum. Okay, that is norm of sigma I equal to 1 to n alpha I EI whole square equal to this one. Sigma I equal to 1 to n mod alpha I square. Okay. Therefore, norm of sigma I equal to 1 to n alpha I EI is equal to sigma I equal to 1 to n mod alpha I square whole raised to 1 by 2. Okay. Now, actually this is application of Pythagorean theorem. Norm of alpha 1 E1 plus alpha 2 E2 square is equal to norm of alpha 1 square, norm of alpha 1 E1 square plus norm of alpha 2 E2 square. Because alpha 1 E1 is orthogonal to alpha 2 E2. So this is actually modulus of alpha 1 square plus modulus of alpha 2 square. Okay. Now what about the third term? Alpha 1 E1 plus alpha 2 E2 plus alpha 3 E3. This you can write like this. Okay. And this is equal to norm of alpha 1 E1 plus alpha 2 E2 square plus norm of alpha 3 E3. And this is norm of alpha 1 square plus norm of alpha 2 square plus norm of alpha 3 square, etc. We are proceeding like this, and here you can easily check this is alpha 1 e1 plus alpha 2 e2 is orthogonal with alpha 3 e3. Alpha 1 e1 plus alpha 2 e2 alpha 3 e3 is equal to alpha 1 e1 comma alpha 3 e3 plus alpha 2 e2 comma alpha 3 e3. Alpha i's are alpha I ei is orthogonal to alpha j ej. Okay, therefore this is equal to 0. Similarly, plus this is equal to 0. Therefore, this sum is orthogonal to this one. So we can apply this result. Okay, and we get this one, and fourth term you consider this as first term and fourth term. So like this, here we are applying Pythagorean theorem actually n times. Okay, so thus we get the corollary modulus of sigma I equal to 1 to n alpha I e I is equal to sigma I equal to 1 to infinity alpha I square whole, sorry, this is n, whole raised to 1 by 2. Okay. Now we are going to check whether this equation holds if EJs are infinite orthonormal sets. Okay, orthonormal sets means orthogonal and normalized. Orthogonal and normalized means EI EJ, inner product of EI EJ equal to 0, also inner product of EI equal to 1. Okay, if this EI or EJ is an infinite sequence, whether this equation holds, that is this infinity equal to this infinity. Okay, for proving this equation holds, we have to check. In the previous case, that is n, sum of nth term, that is clearly exists. We have to check whether this exists, this term sigma I equal to 1 to infinity alpha I ei exists. Now what is the meaning of sigma I equal to 1 to infinity alpha I ei exists means this is equal to, this is a series. A series exists means limit of a series, sum of the series exists means what is the series converges. Okay, so we have to check whether sum I equal to 1 to infinity alpha I ei converges. Also we have to check under what condition this equality holds. Now what about the infinite case? Let EJ with the infinity sequence, and here EJs are orthonormal, that means they are orthogonal, and inner product of EJ is equal to 1. Okay, EI, okay, anyway EI, you can take EI. Okay, this we have, and we have to prove sigma I is equal to 1 to infinity alpha I ei, norm of this is equal to, we have to check actually, sigma I equal to 1 to infinity mod alpha I whole square whole raised to 1 by 2. We have to check under what condition this equation holds. Okay, now before going to that, we have finite case sigma I equal to 1 to n alpha I ei is equal to sigma I is equal to 1 to n mod alpha I whole square whole raised to 1 by 2. We have this. Okay, now apply limit here. Limit n tends to infinity norm of sigma I is equal to 1 to n alpha I ei. This is equal to limit n tends to infinity, this term. Sigma I is equal to 1 to n mod alpha I whole square whole raised to 1 by 2. Okay. Now here you can apply limit. Limit of a function is equal to function of the limit. So this is actually whole raised to 1 by 2. So you can apply limit, and this is equal to limit n tends to infinity sigma I is equal to 1 to n mod alpha I whole square whole raised to 1 by 2. Okay, you can apply the result. Limit x tends to a f of x whole raised to 1 by 2 is equal to, or this n is equal to limit x tends to a f of x whole raised to n. Okay, here for n we have 1 by 2. And this is equal to sigma I is equal to 1 to infinity mod alpha I whole square whole raised to 1 by 2. Okay, so this sum is actually, this is actually equal to this one. Okay, therefore if sigma I equal to 1 to infinity mod alpha I whole square, this x, what about the meaning of this x? This x means this sum is less than infinity. Okay, this sum is less than infinity. Suppose this sum is less than infinity, actually that series is less than infinity. Okay, convergence. Okay, limit value is less than infinity. Now what is the meaning of that? We have Cauchy convergence criterion. That means if a series sigma n is equal to 1 to infinity a n converges, then the sequence of partial sums of this series is a Cauchy sequence. That means sigma k equal to n to m a k given epsilon greater than 0, there exists an integer n such that this is less than epsilon for every, this is actually some, you can write some, yeah, n greater than m greater than or equal to n. This is condition. That means sigma k equal to m to n a k tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Okay. Okay, so this converges implies we have this condition. Okay, now this converges. Okay, now this converges means we have sigma k equal to or I equal to n to m mod alpha I whole square okay and modulus of this term. Each term is modulus. Okay, this term is tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Okay, actually this is less than epsilon, this implies this tends to 0, therefore this tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Okay, clear? Summation I equal to 1 to n mod alpha I square less than infinity means sequence of partial sums is a Cauchy sequence. That means sigma k equal to 1 to n ak tends to 0 in this case. In our case, this summation I equal to 1 n to m mod alpha I whole square tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Hope it is clear. Sigma k equal to n to m alpha I ei. You can apply same result. Application of Pythagorean theorem, and this term, this is actually, this is equal to sigma k equal to n to m mod alpha I whole square whole raised to 1 by 2. Okay, applying the Pythagorean theorem, you start with k equal to n. Okay, so this sum, that is sigma k equal to n to m alpha I ei. No, okay, and this is equal to this one, and this term tends to 0, therefore whole raised to 1 by 2. This term I equal to, or here you can write I, you can write I, and here you can write I. Okay, now this term tends to 0 as n tends to infinity, therefore this term tends to 0. Now this term tends to 0 means, what is the meaning of that? Sigma I equal to n to m alpha I here tends to 0. This implies this sum sigma I is equal to 1 to m alpha I e I, or 1 to m or n, 1 to n, you can write n. This is a Cauchy sequence. Okay, Clear? Sigma, this equal to, this implies this is a Cauchy sequence. Okay, or you can, okay, this is a Cauchy sequence, but our space is an Hilbert space, therefore it is complete. Therefore, complete means this series is, this sequence is converges. Sigma I is equal to 1 to n alpha I E converges. Okay, actually this is a Cauchy sequence. You can mark this as some Sn. Okay, so Sn sequence Sn converges. Sequence Sn is actually partial sum of the series sigma I is equal to 1 to infinity alpha I Ei. This is a partial sum of this series, and this partial sum is a Cauchy sequence. Partial sum is a Cauchy sequence. You apply Cauchy criteria, Cauchy convergence criteria. This implies partial sum Cauchy implies the series converges. Therefore, this series sigma I is equal to 1 to infinity alpha I Ei converges. Okay, I am repeating. We are considering, we get limit n tends to infinity norm of alpha I Ei is equal to this one, all raised to 1 by 2. Okay, now if this is less than infinity, that means that series is convergence. You apply Cauchy criteria. Cauchy criteria, then we get the sequence of partial sums converges to 0. Thus we get this converges to 0. Okay, clear? Now consider this sum. This is from I is equal to n to m. This is equal to this one, and this is tends to 0. Therefore, this term tends to 0. This implies this tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. This implies this sequence is a Cauchy sequence. What about the okay? What about the Sm? Sm equal to sigma I is equal to 1 to m alpha I Ei. Suppose m greater than n, then Sm minus Sn is actually sigma I is equal to n to m, this term. Maybe some term is missing, one term. Okay, this sum tends to 0 means if you take any small quantity, then that also tends to 0. Okay, now this sequence is a Cauchy sequence. But as our space H is a Hilbert space, here it is complete. Therefore, this partial sums converges. Partial sums converges implies the series converges. Therefore, this series is convergent. Therefore, the sum of series exists. Okay, to infinity. Thus, we get limit n tends to infinity sigma I is equal to 1 to n alpha I Ei is equal to sigma I is equal to 1 to infinity mod alpha I whole square whole raised to 1 by 2. This is what we have. Now apply limit. Norm function is continuous, therefore we can apply limit, and this is equal to limit n tends to infinity alpha I sigma I is equal to 1 to n alpha I Ei. Okay, now this is equal to sigma I is equal to 1 to infinity alpha I Ei, and which is equal to sigma I is equal to 1 to infinity mod alpha I whole square whole raised to 1 by 2. Therefore, equality hold in the case of infinite sequences. Okay, here this sum exists if sigma I equal to 1 to infinity mod alpha I whole square less than infinity. Therefore, this equality holds under this condition. Okay, therefore this equality holds under the condition sigma I equal to 1 to infinity mod alpha I whole square is less than infinity. Okay. Today we have discussed a corollary of Pythagorean theorem, and the corollary says that if I equal to 1 to n is a orthonormal system, then norm of sigma I equal to 1 to n alpha I ei is equal to sigma I is equal to 1 to n mod alpha I whole square whole raised to 1 by 2. And the infinity case hold only if sigma I equal to 1 to infinity mod alpha I whole square is less than infinity. Okay. Hope it is clear for you. If you have any doubt, you can contact me through WhatsApp. Okay. Now in the next class, we will discuss about Bessel's inequality that we have already studied. Okay.